I know you've talked about this on the Locked On Browns podcast. Some of the best roster battles are going to be going on in the trenches for the Browns. Take us through that and kind of, the thought behind that.
Well, you look now. Maurice Hurst was a really, really impressive young player impressive player for this team last year. You take into account all the time he had missed up into his career. Finally, got a chance where he put together almost a whole season. But now, when you look, they added Jefferson to that offensive line. You certainly brought back, Shelby Harris. You already have Dalvin Tomlinson. You drafted Michael Hall, and you're in a spot here now where you're probably only going to keep 5 defensive tackles. And there's going to be an odd name left out. It's not going to be Hall. It's not going to be Hall. It's probably not going to be Jefferson. It's not going to be Shelby Harris. It's certainly not going to be Dalvin Tomlinson. And then you get to that spot where it's that number 5 defensive tackle, and it could be a tough spot for a guy certainly who was a big time player for this team last year, Maurice Hurst, and before he went on a season-ending IR. Great player, great story. He seems like he absolutely wants to be a part of this team. But the numbers game get a little tight, and the same thing's going to happen on the offensive side of the ball. You already have your 5 starters. Juwan Jones is your 6th offensive line. Then you get in that battles where you have Michael Dunn, who's been here for years. You drafted Zinter, obviously, to be, a guard of the future here. You're 3 deep at center. How's that going to work? You brought in a veteran in Brian Allen, who, was part of the Super Bowl winning team with the Los Angeles Rams. You have the second-year guy that you drafted from Ohio State last spring. And we're talking about some of these guys and mentioned some of these names, and these guys, James Hudson's been here for years too. And this is another guy. They're when it gets down to the cut down time and the musical chairs of it, they're really deep in these spots. And that means that not everybody's going to be able to stay. You're not just going to say, oh, well, we really like the guys we have. We're going to keep 12 offensive linemen and we'll just sacrifice it somewhere else. I mean, there's usually a code the way this is done. You either go 9 or 10 deep at offensive line. You either go 9 or 10 deep at defensive line. Nobody's going to go any deeper than that, even if they're satisfied with the units they have. Of course, the attrition can always happen. Somebody can, end up injured or out, whatever it be, that as it may. But, they're really, really deep in these groups. And unfortunately, some guys that we've grown to see here for a while, or maybe even appreciated, or even veterans that came over here just recently, are probably not going to be guys that are going to be able to stay. There's going to be a couple of names that go up on that waiver wire that 31 other teams are going to be really, really excited about. But Cleveland Browns fans most certainly are not going to be.